I appreciate you guys giving me a few minutes here because there's been quite a few things that have been happening recently. I'll start off just with the question about, how important or how important is insurance and how often does it come up with you when you're talking with your clients?
All the time.
Mostly
All the
farm and
time.
crop insurance.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And one of the things that my son-in-law works with Harlan Estates, and he is in a group of other wineries. And we were just talking, another group of, finance executives at other wineries. And he was talking to me about, in their meetings, that is the most commonly talked about issue is insurance for the property, insurance for the crop, and just the market condition in general. And the market condition right now hasn't changed much over the last few years. Property is still a huge challenge for wineries in terms of acquiring lower rates. And a lot of insurers, the carriers themselves are at capacity, meaning that they just don't have a lot of room for more property, whether it's the physical property or wine stock, for example. So really what we've come up with is just a model that allows us to help the winery with their current solution, their current situation, because we can't always make the promise that we're going to find something better than what they have. The thing is that what we want to do is help you guys to be able to offer value to your clients through what we offer. So who is Acrisure? Acrisure is a large fintech company that has over the last few years has partnered and acquired local agencies. What that's really done is given us a long list of things that we can offer, but also just a global reach. And Acrisure has their own Lloyd syndicate at this point. It's probably the only insurance brokerage that has that. One of the things that we work with is the brokerage selection process. We want to be the broker that people select to help support them, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But we advocate a one voice model so that the market doesn't get confused by multiple people approaching them. So when an underwriter sees the same submission from three or four different brokers for the same client, same winery, it confuses the marketplace a little bit and kind of actually dilutes the client's power in the marketplace. And so our Acrisure team just has a lot of in-depth experience and unique understanding of wineries, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. Acrisure's model is just a little bit different. We're kind of working to redefine the insurance industry because what we're doing is we offer commercial insurance. We work through the benefits. We work through a lot of other options that are available, such as payroll, if people want that, 401ks, if people want that. We are working to become I hate to use the words one-stop shop, but a great place for them to find everything they need to keep it simple. In another business, I used to think of it as, one vendor, one bill, one person watching out for you. That's the way I kind of think about it. The other part that Acrisure does is they're the largest independent title broker in America. So, and a lot of other offerings that go along with things. So in all of that, what that allows us to do is to offer our team up. And I am a wine and agriculture client advisor. My background is I grew up in vineyards with my grandparents growing grapes in Sonoma County. So I grew up picking grapes and just spending a lot of time in the vineyard when I was younger. The other thing that I do besides insurance is I do work in the wine industry as well as insure a lot of wineries. Our group insures over 100 wineries in California. And what working in the wine industry allows me to do is not only understand and know people in the industry, but understand what the wineries are up against and how the process works from harvest to sales. So that allows me to speak really well in the marketplace and have intelligent conversations with the owners of wineries about what they're doing and understand what it is I'm seeing. But that's just a small part. So we also have a lead account executive who works exclusively in the wine and agriculture industry. Sierra does a great job. Joe Opel is the kind of the head of our wine and agricultural division. He's been in the business for about 40 years and allows us to work directly to find solutions, and his experience just guides us all. And then lastly, Brent Wood does our crop insurance. So we have this team. The team is a little larger than that in reality. But these are just the four faces that you would see. I like to joke that within our agency, there's over 250 years of insurance experience there, just given the tenure of some of the people. So we work in a team approach to come up with solutions that use the resources that I described Acrisure has. And how we do that is going to be what we talk through is due diligence is a term we use a lot. We don't just want to treat wineries as clients. We want to see them as partners. So what we do is we immerse ourselves in understanding their operations. Literally what we will do is site visits, conversations, and then from there, once we feel like we understand things, we're able to take their current insurance policies and do deep dive into not just what the coverages are, though those are the key parts, but also reading the language of the policy. Recently, I found where some of the operations that the winery wanted to they were doing outside events, which is becoming a little bit of an issue with some general liability. They actually had an outside events exclusion in their general liability policy. And that's becoming a little bit more common, but they were doing them anyway. And so we were able to find things like that. And then we also talked through the challenges that they're facing. Obviously, the biggest ones are going to be property. Finding a general liability policy isn't the hard part. It's finding property at the best possible rate these days, and then finding a good home for them based on what they're doing. Because we know that wineries don't just making wine and selling wine. They might be doing events on and off property. They may be a wedding venue. They may be doing concerts and things like that. And so each of the carriers that we work with may have a little different appetite. The next thing, and when we look into their policies, is we take a look at the policy review for sure to see what their wine stock is covered, how much wine stock is covered, how it's covered. So that's going to be one of the biggest issues that we find, meaning that the value of the wine stock is appropriate in both the policy and represents what they actually have. And we find that that's not all the time accurate. Obviously, the wine stock is the winery's money. If a winery lost $3 million, they probably wouldn't be able to stay in business. The other part of it would be contract and lease review. To be able to look at contracts, whether they're doing custom crush, whether they're doing other things with vendors who might require a certain amount of insurance from them. And that also has us look at their contracts with others to make sure that the people who are doing business with them are compliant with what they're asking for. And then lastly, looking at any leases if that's appropriate. And those three places are the key factors to make sure that they're insured properly, that their contents, their wine stock are insured at the correct values, that they're at the time of a loss, that they would be paid either selling price or market value. The last thing we want to see is someone's wine stock valued at actual cash value. So that allows us to have some great conversations and develop more questions. And then when we take a look at all the other information we have, just to match up what the coverages are with the way that their organization works and what they have. More often than not, we're finding that they're doing other things that need to be insured differently, or that there might be some other property options. So while the market is the way it is for insurance and for property, more often than not, we're just finding ways that we can help them in their current situation. And sometimes that results in cost savings. Sometimes we find in one recent place, we found someone who had a vacation rental on their property that was classified as a hotel without a pool, and there was definitely a pool. And what that would mean at claim time is that if something happened and they found out that there was a pool there, or if the incident revolved around the pool, they could be denied coverage. So it's those kinds of things that we find and that we look for. And all of this due diligence helps us to come up with those kinds of things. And then that really just allows us to offer tailored insurance solutions. So a lot of the other, when we say customized risk management strategies, we talk a lot too about workers' comp, depending on the size of the winery, to make sure that the people who are working there are safe, that the conditions are safe, and then allowing them and working with them to institute safety precautions that may lower their California experience modification, which would help them look a little bit better in the workers' comp marketplace. And all of these things affect the winery's bottom line. So if a claim was to happen and it doesn't get paid out properly, that affects the winery's bottom line. If someone hurts themselves, I saw a picture from one winery recently where a winemaker climbed to the top of all the barrels and was standing on top of barrels in the picture on Instagram doing barrel samples. Needless to say, we had a conversation, or having dogs on property, a lot of different things that affect wineries' bottom lines at claim time. So we want to help them safeguard their vineyards, their production facilities, and tasting room against threats. The other part would be cyber insurance. So we just tailor it based on the needs, based on what we see, and based on what they're covered for. The other part that we work with through our whole program is comprehensive benefits. Well, right now, obviously, given the wine industry and sales the way that they are for most wineries these days, attracting and retaining talent may not be the first thing on their radar, but they may want to keep the people that they do have. So Acrisure does offer health benefits, wellness, and retirement plans. I don't do that personally, but we bring in people from our team to help with that. Managing health benefits has been a key place where we've been able to help recently. The other thing that we can work with through our risk resources program is some training programs, safety videos with tests at the end to help drive home safety and efficiency. And what we find is that when we do these things, safety training, when we help people with those kinds of risk management programs, it helps the bottom line at the end of the day. And it keeps their workers' comp rates from going through the roof. Again, when a winery only has 3 or 4 employees, it's different than if they have 20 to 100, and those costs can skyrocket. We've seen people paying, not just in the wine industry, but we've seen people overpaying over a 3-year period in 6 figures for workers' comp based on claims, and we want to help them work to reduce those and get that money down and back into their pocket. Lastly, one of the things that we work with, and this is kind of how I sit and talk with some of my winery customers or a lot of clients that I have recently, and this essence of risk management chart helps people understand what they want to do with different kinds of risks. So, for example, high severity incidents that happen all the time, you don't want to do that. You want to avoid those situations. High severity and low frequency. So, high severity, low frequency are things that could put a company out of business, but they don't happen very often. That's where they want to transfer that to insurance. I think that the way I explained it, and you can use this chart, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So I appreciate it, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.